Come all young sailormen, listen to me. I'll sing you a song of the fish in the sea. Blow, ye winds, westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southward, so steady she goes.
Okay, welcome. I want to welcome my friend Tele, who will be our first reader of the evening. Tele Aadsen started salmon trolling out of Sitka, Alaska as a kid in 1984. I am so excited to announce that her first book, What Water Holds, will be available coming up this May from Empty Bowl Press. I'm gonna get myself a copy, get right on the list. I encourage you to do that, and please join me in welcoming Tele to the stage.
Hey, buddies. Okay, we're gonna take a minute here. Thank you, Elma. Thank you, Liberty. Thank you, everyone, for being back together here tonight. There are two things I want to touch on. One is Empty Bowl Press is a local Pacific Northwest indie publisher owned by Fisher poet Holly Hughes and her partner John Pierce. And What Water Holds would not exist without their incredible advocacy and handling and Fisher Poets. So I'm grateful to everyone with Fisher Poets who is helping bring that book into the world. The second thing I'd like to touch on tonight is my partner, Joel Brady Power, is not with us this weekend. He had an injury last month, and it has been a really rough 7 weeks on him, and he has been amazing, powering through, and he's done a lot of really hard things in that time, and one of the absolute hardest is not being here with us this weekend. So I wonder if you would, for a moment, just give him some love with a round of applause. Thank you, and love you, buddy, and let's get started with Fisher Poets, right? I have one piece to read for you tonight, and it is called Sustainable. Last August, deep in the delirious rhythm of a good day, we run lines, land and bleed fish, lines back out, clean fish, run lines, scramble to hand fish down. Your nose hairs freeze in the hold's negative 40-degree wind tunnel. Clean the fish from the last pull. Promise yourself that next time you'll take a moment to gobble a few bites of cold pasta, pound some water and ibuprofen, maybe finally get to pee. For now, pull, clean, pull, fish down, clean, pull, fish down, repeat, repeat. Dude, I'm so tired. I don't know how we used to do this, Joel says, standing next to me at the cleaning trough. This has gotten so much harder since I turned 40. Joel turned 40 last week. 5 years older, I don't let my side eye interrupt my knife flying through flesh. Instead, I do mental math, recalling my mom running her boat with an angry teenager as her only crew. Our last season, she was 54. Can I make these demands of my body for another 9 years? With no backup plan, no savings or retirement fund, what's the alternative? Sliding one fish forward and grabbing another, Joel shakes his head. I don't know how much longer we can do this, just the two of us, buddy. This isn't sustainable. Sustainable. Overused and abused by decades of corporate greenwashing. What does the word even mean anymore? Google sustainable salmon. The first response is this: salmon caught in a way that will ensure more fish will be available now and for decades to come. Alaska's small boat fisheries have long been ranked among the world's healthiest. Following 10,000 years of Tlingit people's stewardship, Southeast trawlers have been guided by a conservation ethos for almost 150 years. Operating with state and federal oversight, we report every fish delivered, taxed a percentage of their value to support Alaska's hatcheries. Fish and Game monitors our catch with a sharp eye, closing kings when we get near the quota, and shutting us down mid-season to ensure escapement goals, salmon safely reaching their rivers to spawn. Deeply complex, meticulously managed, catching salmon in a way that ensures fish will be available now and for decades to come. Joel and I describe trolling as beautifully inefficient. The intimate connection with salmon and their world is precisely why many of us choose this ridiculously laborious, detail-obsessed business of coaxing fish to bite a hook one by one. But sustainable fisheries alone will not save salmon. They need healthy saltwater and freshwater habitats. They need free-flowing rivers and clean, cold water, streamside vegetation, woody debris, and coastal estuaries. They need land advocates as diligent as fisheries managers. Habitat preservation is one thing in Alaska's still wild world. Recognizing all our eggs are in one conservation-based basket, fisher folks are passionate stewards, rallying protection for the Tongass National Forest, condemning upstream dangers of BC's transboundary river mines, and, over decades of tenacious advocacy, insisting no pebble mine, and winning. In Alaska, the challenge is protecting what is from what could be. 1,000 miles to the south, Washington is a dismal specter of what not to do: explosive population growth, degraded habitat, dammed rivers, polluted waters. What action do we take when the damage is already here? In March 2020, a Washington group filed a lawsuit against the National Marine Fisheries Service, alleging that the federal agency's authorization of Alaska's Chinook troll fishery imperils Puget Sound's southern resident killer whales. The lawsuit moved slowly. We were fishing in 2021. We were fishing in 2022. As a fleet, we were equally slow to see it as a serious threat. After all, one hook, one fish. How could our fleet be vilified for the struggles of one pod 1,000 miles away? And the southern residents are struggling. Every other king-consuming North Pacific orcapod has maintained healthy numbers or flourished. Both northern and Alaskan residents have at least doubled since 1980. Meanwhile, the southern residents have never recovered from brutal commercial harvests of 50 years ago, when 47 members were captured and sold to marine parks. At least another 12 were killed in the capture efforts. In just over 10 years, the southern residents lost 40% of their family. It's telling that the struggling orcas are those spending most of their lives in the Salish Sea, one of the busiest areas of marine traffic in the world, riddled with noise pollution and industrial toxins. Eliminating one of Alaska's lowest impact fisheries will not reduce the toxicity of Puget Sound or the PCB levels responsible for emaciated offspring. It will not address the dams nor the whale watch industry that has quintupled since the 1980s, nor the rampant habitat loss of America's fastest growing urban center. Instead, it will devastate the coastal communities reliant on this fishery, with rippling repercussions to Pacific Northwest cold storages, trucking companies, restaurants, retailers, boatyards, and shipwrights. Living in Washington, Joel and I are anomalies. 85% of our fleet mates are Alaskans, literal mom and pop operations, small boats with 2 to 3 people on board, multi-generation fisher families. Blithe dismissals that the fishermen can get other jobs don't apply to the realities of life in the Tongass, remote island communities accessible only by boat or air. Of this lawsuit's potential losers, the southern residents will be the biggest. Taking our hooks out of Southeast Alaskan waters will not turn the tide for the Salish Sea's imperiled orcas or salmon. It is an excellent distraction from the local disturbances that limit their chances for survival. They need better from us. When I was in 7th grade, we had a debate class. Because it was 1990 in the Pacific Northwest, one of our topics was the spotted owl controversy. No one wanted to speak for the loggers, not even me, a boat kid who spent summers blue-collared and bloody. Reluctantly assigned to the losing side, one of my classmates bluntly summarized our role. We're against the owls. Over 30 years later, our cultural capacity for middle ground hasn't evolved beyond middle school. Scrolling articles about the lawsuit, I make the mistake of reading the comments. I learn that in standing for Alaska's sustainable fisheries, I am standing against the orcas. Every story needs a hero. Every hero needs a villain. It's surreal, after a lifetime as a yoga-posing, public radio listening bleeding heart, to realize that in this story, I am the villain. Surreal and painful. Harvester, conservationist. I'm old enough to recall when folks thought you were one or the other. We know better now. I am a fisherman, and I am an environmentalist. Identities not merely coexisting, but necessarily, inextricably intertwined, each sustaining the other. I think back to one sunny July afternoon years ago, trolling for coho off Icy Point. Dragging our hooks through glacial green water, Joel and I dropped everything to marvel at a pod of orcas charging past. They were fast on the westward move, surfacing just long enough for us to admire their signature black and white lines. Lines so clearly drawn, such a stark division in the land of ocean mist, to see not a shade of gray. As we gather tonight here, the lawsuit is in a Seattle judge's hands. Now we wait for the ruling that determines if our fleet can fish kings this summer. The Nurka's season has already been ruled out. Joel had a serious accident last month. Hearing the surgeons say he'd be wheelchair-bound for the next 3 months before he could begin the process of learning to walk again, that made our decision for us. All the NERCA's winter projects were off the table. Neither she nor her captain will be in shape for this season. As the rest of our fleet waits for the verdict, I'm waiting to see what happens with my sweetheart's recovery. I did not anticipate being a 45-year-old deckhand starting over on an unfamiliar boat, but the alternative is worse. Going a summer without the sustenance of salt air, without the bounce of the ocean beneath my boots, chasing salmon beneath the shadows of mountains that, when I was a child, still poured glaciers into the sea. If our fleet is fishing, I will be there. Land friends often ask me, how long? How long will you keep fishing? The question always takes me by surprise, an unexpected tell of the ways they don't know me, don't know the elements sustaining my being. How long will a salmon keep swimming? As long as she can. Thank you.
I'm excited now to welcome Harry Moore to the stage. Harry was born and raised in the Bristol Bay fishery and is joining us tonight from Palmer, Alaska, with a guitar and some stories to share. And please join me in welcoming him. Thank you.
Sounds good. How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah, welcome back to Fisher Poets, huh? Oh my word, past couple years it's been a little rough going here. Trying to get over the COVID, the pestilence and all. Let's see here, do I need this thing or am I just loud enough as it is? My wife says I'm plenty loud, that's for sure. She's like, can't you go practice out in the shop? And I'm like, I was in the shop, why? You heard me? Yeah, so yeah, I like to get her going. I was born into the fishery out in the bay, and what a beautiful, well, I don't know if that was poetry, I don't know if it was a statement, I don't know, it was moving. That's what it was. Well said, well spoken to, and it's an important issue we cannot let go. She mentioned Pebble Mine, and I'm deeply invested into the anti-Pebble Mine. Pebble Mine's just one of 5 that were planned for that area, a whole mining district in that area at the head of the Nushagak River. So the fight, we won this round, right, for a moment. Stand by. Keep your powder dry. We might have to go at her again. I wouldn't be surprised. But thank you so much for those beautiful words. If you make your living off the ocean or off of the natural resources that God's given us, then you are a conservationist. You are an environmentalist. You better give a hoot. Well, this first song here I got going here, you know, when you get ready to get out to the bay, I tell you what, you don't forget, you forget about the moldy box of vanilla wafers in the corner, you forget about all these things, and man, you got to get ready. You got to get off those blocks and get going. Those sockeye, they don't wait for anybody or anything. When they're ready to come, they're ready. And by golly, when you get out there, you got to get ready too, and it never fails. If it isn't one thing, it's another and another. So here we go. Let's help me get my boat off the blocks. How about it? Start with 1, and then there's 2. Get 3 finished, but more is due. We gotta get her off the blocks. We gotta hit the dock. You come here late, now you come here early. Well, it don't matter, you're in a hurry. Gotta get it done in time catch them fish this tide. We gotta get off these blocks, we gotta hit the dock. Gotta get off these blocks, we gotta hit the dock. St. Elmo had frames to do, now they didn't know there was more than two. 12 frames later, what do you know? The boys will make the show. And Dave on the Caroline, now that engine, it was mighty fine. He put it in, but it smokes a lot. Gotta get off these blocks. Gotta get off these blocks, we gotta hit the dock. Gotta get off these blocks, we gotta hit the dock. Come on, boys, we gotta go. It's time to hit those docks below. Simon says, yo, today I'm gonna set you in all the way. It's a falling tide and it's running hard. Now you're bouncing across the bar. You toss the ball, oh, you fight for your show. It's time to let her go. We're off the blocks. We're off the blocks. We're off the blocks. We are off the blocks. We're off the blocks. We're off the blocks. We're off the blocks, and now it's time to make her pay. Gotta get off these blocks, we gotta hit the dock. Gotta get off these blocks, we gotta hit the dock. Let's go fishing. So your sweetie at home, worried about the boat work, don't worry, it's waiting for him. It is waiting for him. And what he thought was going to be rusty, next year will be quite crusty, huh? Yeah. It's something else. When you invest yourself, when you're blessed, like myself and Tele, when we're blessed to be born into a fishing family, and her mother, much like mine, is what brought me, us, my family, into the fishery. And it becomes part of you. And for me, at the close of every season, I always have a little bit of melancholy. I just really love being out there. I love the region of Bristol Bay, Naknek specifically, where I love to fish out of. I was born out there. My roots are in the set net fishery, but I drift these days, and I'm not that good at it, but you know, sometimes I actually catch a couple. But every year I get a little sad as the season progresses to a close, because I don't want it to end. I want it to just continue. So this song I wrote is about that. It's about the last tide, the last set, and it never fails, right? The last tide, the last set, what happens? You get web in the wheel, you break something, it might happen, go dry or something, but that's what I wrote here. It's a love story. It's a love story to the fishery and the identity that I and others carry with us. Let me see if I got this right. You know, if I don't fall off this stool, that's amazing. That's going to be worth a clap. Yep, I'm good. Let's give it a go. Rain it comes and that rain it goes. Well, I'm not sure which way it goes, but me without you thinking about. Please wait for me. The sun it does rise and them tides they fall. There's so much more now to it all. Well, it's hard to tell the night from day when you're rolling on 24 days. See, 24 days, them fish been running hard. 24 days, oh, the tide's so tight, now my boots are wet, my gloves are gone. 24 more and I am gone. So I look out my window, and what do I see? Well, all my buddies, they're surrounding me. See, brown bear's here, tea is too, and I'm not sure what to do. So I lay it out, now I let her go, and haul it back, you gotta pick 'em, you know. Lots to do in a short time, you see, 'cause the tide is slipping away from me. And the tide it comes, oh the tide it goes. And before you know it, that wind starts to blow and you be sitting dry, just thinking about how you should have hauled out. It's time to haul back. Head her on in. We'll put her in the strap. So yeah, call you again. Now I block her up. I'm running about. I gotta catch my plane out. Well, I sit in that seat. I peek out that light. I see the tarmac. You know it's rolling out of sight. Well, I'm already thinking all about the next tide that rolls by. See, the rain it comes and the rain it goes. Well, I'm not sure which way it goes, but me without you thinking about. Please wait for me. So talking about the love of the fishery and the love of family and the love of, I was born into a family of, I have 5 older sisters. So, you know, Johnny Terabake here, that's the Raging Tea, yeah. He knows some of them. And he'll tell you, Phil, my good friend Phil here, he'll tell you about my sister Liz. She's a powerhouse and she'll bring it forward. She's a spitting image of my mom. My mom was homesteaded Bristol Bay back in '47, and with my dad, and they were out on Lake Iliamna, right where Pebble Mine wanted to dump its stuff. I caught myself. I should get brownie points for that. And yeah, so Mom raised 5 girls on that homestead. It was a dirt floor, sod roof, and it was, I think they were on the homestead for 8 years. When they moved to Naknek, that's when I was, oh, hi Liz. Hey, you're here. Well, there she is, correcting me as I go. That's what big sisters do. But I tell you, she didn't stand in the gap for me that day we're driving through Naknek, and all the boys in the village, 5 sisters, remember now, says, hey, here come the Moore girls, and I'm in the back of the truck. And I'm like, wait a second. Oh, gee whiz, you know, so I'm the youngest of the Moore girls. But I wrote this song about my mom. She's an amazing woman. She was a nurse, she was a fisherwoman, and when she was nursing, she was thinking about being a fisherwoman, and she did not want to leave it. We would salt fish every year. She did whatever it took as a single mother to raise her children in the 60s and 70s and beyond. I love you, Mom. I miss her. She passed away at 95, and I'm just now getting to where I can sing this song without crying. But Liz, I'll see if I can do it this time. Standing all pretty as can be. Her arms are like iron, now there's something to see. A red beret that she wears each day, looking out on that wide open bay. Well, I was just a boy when I saw you, standing right there, too good to be true. The years have come, oh, and not so kind. This powerful woman was a mother of mine. Now she struggled, well, she struggled and worked her fingers to the bone to make sure her children would all make it home. Laying it out one shekel at a time and hauling it back, gotta haul on that line. Well, she strived so hard, now she gave it her all. Not one did she let to suffer a fall. She needs some water, well, I can get it quick. Meanwhile, she stays, oh, splits another 6. Oh, that splitting and salting, now the slime line, it's true. Another 25 in that tier, that's its due. Well, it didn't matter much if it rained or stormed. Jan would make sure that the work kept us warm. Now she struggled, struggled and worked her fingers to the bone to make sure her children would all make it home. Laying it out one shekel at a time and hauling it back, better haul on that line. Well, all those years, well, how could it be? A single woman and mother now striving to be free. Many tides have come, oh, several have gone. This tide has now taken you home. Oh, Jan, our mother, oh, Jan, to me. The wind in your face and the water, oh, the sea. I still see you at the top of those stairs, waiting and watching, oh, calling us there. Now she struggled and worked her fingers to the bone to make sure her children would all make it home. Laying it out one shekel at a time and hauling it back, better haul on that line. Love you, Mom.
Next, I want to welcome Kat Murphy to read for us. Kat lives in Port Hadlock, Washington, and runs a power troller in Southeast Alaska. In the off-season, she runs her own direct marketing seafood company called Catfish Salmon Co. I proudly see those in my local grocery store every week. I hope you do as well. And she recently had a chapbook of her Fisher poems or stories published by Winter Text. It's titled Inward. Winter Text is a micro press located in Port Townsend, Washington. I think you can find it at the Gear Shack. Yes. Okay. Please help me in welcoming Kat Murphy to the stage. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I have three poems and one story to share with you this evening. I'm going to start with the story. I performed it virtually last year, so I'm excited to have a chance to perform it live tonight. It's called Two Homes, Two Hearts. How do you put into words what should only be felt? There's a flower drifting past the boat in the middle of this deep blue sea. It makes me think of home and of blackberry season, lettuce shooting out of the ground, peas weaving their vines, and nasturtiums overflowing. I look out on deck and see waves and whitecaps and foam, lines shaking with fish ready to be caught. I am alone in a world of sea and sky. This is also home. For me, Alaska is sunrises and sunsets blurring together into one endless day stretched out. Expansive and overwhelming, Alaska is too big to contain, ever overflowing, raw and unfiltered. It is well-organized chaos. It holds the wild places that I love. Port Townsend is the steady plodding of time, the rhythms of day-to-day living, the clock ticking and me actually knowing what day of the week it is. It holds the long, dark hours and the deep sleep. It is peaceful and methodical, and sometimes hard to stuff myself back into. It holds the people that I love frozen in time. After 4 months away, I often struggle trying to find the words to describe all that a summer fishing season holds. So I put on the hat of entertainer, vivacious storyteller, performer of tricks and jokes. I tell the people what they want to hear. I make them laugh and sometimes cringe. Fascinated, captivated, I hold them in the palm of my hand. I am powerful. I am in control. But they make room for me, create space for the transformation from fisherman to cat, graciously accepting whatever form of me happens to appear in September, lovingly breaking the tension of transition I feel each year. They listen and laugh, politely applauding at the end of my performance. They wait patiently. Translating my summers and trying to understand theirs feels like a full cup of water that I knock over and spill onto the floor. The words seep into the carpet. I am one person and two people. The distance between is becoming too vast to bridge. I can hear the waves slapping against the hull as I drive the Grace forward. I try and go forward, but the water is a sea of flowers floating. Looking down, I run my hand through their petals, but they're chanterelles, smooth and bright on the fall forest floor. I sense movement and look up. The troll poles are shaking with fish, but it's my teeth chattering, my body shaking with cold as I sit on my surfboard staring out at the waves as the snow falls around me, melting into the sea. Another wave, this time crashing over the bow. It's the Omni Rip. I'm caught. I need to turn around. I need to go back, but I can't get through. The flowers are too thick. I've lost all control over the situation. The raven on the bow says two, and I yell back one. My voice becomes snow, becomes blackberries, wraps like river rock around ego and self. The raven says harmony. Let me begin again. How do you put into words what should only be felt?
There's a flower drifting past the boat in the middle of this deep blue sea. The memories start to trickle like water over smooth stones, told out of order, as they are felt rather than remembered. Listening to a favorite song in the deep peace of the morning run out of the anchorage, running day and night nonstop, trying to get the boat south before the gale, a bright moon on a still ocean lighting the way. One breakdown after another, I am covered in soot in my engine room, exasperated. A buddy hands me a cold beer afterwards. No words, just understanding. The best day of fishing I've ever had, and the boat refusing to turn over the next morning. Collecting beach asparagus under a rare bright sun and a piercing blue sky. Hot sand. Sunburn? We are 8 days in, 700 miles traveled in a football field's distance from home, anchored outside the breakwater, waiting for the wind to come down as the clock strikes midnight. The metallic, manic smell of king salmon on deck, the smell of money, their silver scales sparkling on my town jeans. How did those get there? Tequila shots with the official, unofficial mayor of Shearwater. Did that actually happen? Rafting up to a friend's boat in the dark that I haven't seen all season. The warm light of my sodium illuminating their smiling faces as they catch my lines. Serenity, fatigue, anxiety, fear, joy, grief, perseverance, desperation, love, loss, anger, peace, awe, trickling over smooth stones, down the river, out to sea. Thank you. I wrote the first draft of this next poem in my head on an all-night wheel watch from Chatham Strait to Petersburg, and I was eating just to keep I was so tired that I wasn't hungry, but I was just merely eating to stay awake, and I just remember like taking 10 bites out of one potato chip just for something to do so I wouldn't pass out. And I had been reading a lot of Mary Oliver at that time, and I was inspired by her poem, 1,000 Mornings. She definitely said it better and in fewer words, but I'm gonna give it a go. I titled this poem, I Think of You as I Wait for Light. I have seen, at the very least, 1,000 mornings, felt the release of tense muscle, the exhale of breath, senses refreshed, as the first rays of light hit the mountains, and sea and sky are separated, finally, and morning eases into day. 1,000 mornings and 1,000 nights, waiting patiently for light. And in the darkest hour, the one right before the dawn, I always ask myself, will the sun rise today? And I get my answer. The stars spin in the sky. The moon illuminates a path in dark sea to follow. And morning comes, slowly, cautiously. And life goes on. We go on. So the final two poems of the evening, I wrote them to help me process experiencing loss and grief in the middle of 2 consecutive fishing seasons and what it felt like to come out of the other side of that. And to quote the graphic journalist Nat Nichols, grief is weird. So the first poem is titled Inward. I turned inward after the last loss, losing things, some by my own choice, some by surprise. In the scales of my heart, the grief weighs out equally. I call it losing things. I don't want to put a name to it, to breathe life into loss. While able to sleep 3, my boat feels big enough for only 1. There is simplicity in sea and sky, wind and tide, and endless, endless work. But loss seeps into the planks, follows me down into the fish hold, holds my hand as I search for salmon, sits next to me on my bunk. I stir it into the pot of salmon chowder and wrap it into each burrito I will eat, its eye never wavering far from me in the small joys I feel gaffing fish. Yet there is so much life all around me, the trees sway with the force of it. Life here is doled out in sharp edges. I look for answers in its harshness. It glimmers in the rainbow flash of a king salmon coming up on the gear that I quickly stun and kill, slitting the gills, watching blood pour out across the deck. I see it in an eagle swooping in to snatch a bloated rockfish. Life rises next to me as whales break the surface, in perfect unity bubble feeding, like swim dancers. I feel the pulse of it as my anchor drags across the bottom in gale force winds. It beats with each wave that crashes over the bow. I do not find all of the answers here. The why of it eludes clarity. I am not quite ready to shed the exoskeleton I wear, to kiss loss sweetly and say goodbye. That's good enough for now. My love for them both is buried deep in that cold, salty layer of water. On the bottom of the ocean it sits, waiting to upwell and break the surface. Got through it. One more. This last and final poem is called Rising Tide, and it just kind of fell out of me one night at 2 a.m. The night tide is when the past unfurls itself, inch by inch, hard ripples of sand, memories of water, felt through the soles of her feet. The farther she walks out, the more she remembers. Her body becomes the sea, pulled from shore, drifting in slack water. The moon has led her here, uncertain and powerless, she bows to Luna's will. Rising, hissing, swirling, water creeps up around her toes. The moon calls her back, and she follows. Up the beach to the dune's edge, the grasses sway hello in remembrance. Unrelenting, the rising tide carries her, and she is whole again. Thank you.
Far away, far away, far away across the beautiful ocean, am I bound to sail all alone? Far away across the beautiful sea, far away across the beautiful sea.